Well, it's a very good afternoon to you, Maspotis Mautus Namgela to Yaleveki. That is Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. Well, today we're not coming to you live right here on SABC 1 in Mzansi for sure. But guess what? Even though you cannot call us right here in the show, you can still send us your emails. The email address is consumer@sabc.co.za. And of course, you can go and find me on social media and go find our page, Yilungelo Lakho on SABC 1. My Twitter handle on Twitter is @speechinzawumbi, #Yilungelo Lakho. In that way, I'll be able to read the contribution on the show today. Well, South Africa, everywhere where you're watching, it's good afternoon to you. Now, while spending associated with the festive season is once again upon us, a period that seems many cash flush consumers going all out on a spending spree. However, partying as if there is no tomorrow remains one of the biggest problems to consumers, often leaving many struggling to cope with the financial pressures of the post-festive period. And now to equip us on how to avert the financial stress that follows the festive season, let's welcome two gentlemen who are the heart of what sound consumer behavior entails. Now we welcome Utami Bolani, Olichantlizio Lamalungelo Abatengi. We also have Gerald Mwandiambira, Yena Ovela Park with South African Saving Institute. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, Yilungelo Lakho, and welcome.
Good afternoon, Spirit.
Utami, once again. Welcome. Now, we've reached this time once again. We're talking about festive season. We're telling people about your saving. Gerald, can you tell us how the effect, basically, that the festive season has on the pockets of many consumers in South Africa?
The festive season is a great time for most South Africans. It's the time of the year when most people celebrate the year that it has been. You know, it's been a tough year economically for most of us. So it's that time of the year when we want to just relax and spend time with the family. Unfortunately, what tends to happen is that we go overboard in terms of how we behave financially. We spend, as you said,
like there's no tomorrow.
Like there's no tomorrow. and my message, if any, for any consumers watching today is simply 2016 is coming.
But some say that the spending is very good for the economy. Would you agree with those sentiments?
Yes, spending is great for the economy because it creates jobs, it keeps factories running, and everybody is happy. However, how we spend is more important because we can't be seen to be people who only spend in December. We need to plan our spending throughout the year. And our key message always at SASI has always been budget. So we are not against spending. We love people to spend, but we want you to do it with a sound mind.
Spend sparingly. Butami, what's most likely by psychology? Around this time, now that there are jingle bells everywhere, the Christmas trees, that definitely affects the psychology of the consumer. What's most likely to be the thought?
Ukuthi sakhuliswa ngokuthi kulesikhathi sikaChristmas no New Year kufanele sijabule, kufanele sisebenzise imali ukuze maqala unyaka omusha siqala unyaka omusha siphumlile sijabulile. So into ekade ikhona leyo for many years. And umuya kwamanye amazwe ngiyakhumbula ngakhulela eSoviet Union for a long time. Even nakhona kwakuyi-socialism kodwa abantu babespenda during the festive season. So akuyona into ezophela le anytime soon. And it's not right to expect ukuthi abantu bazoyiphelisa le. I think the best thing to do, kuba sikhuluma every year, is to say abantu mabeplanela i-festive season, how do they plan? Bakwazi ukuspenda in a way that will be affordable so that the following year bangayitholi besenkingeni. I think that's the best approach to take.
I think it's also interesting that you're talking about culture, you know, because I think when it comes to festive season, you cannot detach it from culture. With that comes the culture of spending. If one that spends more, you definitely take on into that culture. But how then do you think that perhaps South Africans, especially now that we're facing hard economic times, do you think that the South Africans, citizens are taking into refuge that this is how the times are going to affect their pockets?
Well, I think it depends on what consumers are informed. Consumers they tell you point blank straight, look, see a spender, tomorrow will sort itself out. It happens. Kuna who plan, for instance, they plan from the beginning of the year, planning for the festive season. Abanye abantu basebenzisa ama bonuses wabo. You get stockpiles, a baby saver for the whole year, who use part of that money as stockpile. to entertain themselves during the festive season. So the approach has to be different because abantu do these things in a different
Differently.
Yeah.
You know, Gerald, interesting reports indicated in surveys about consumers in Dogbana, people are getting more and more indebted. Actually, South Africa is becoming that country in Africa. You know, people are in debt, they are sinking in debt, but it just seems like we are not taking these messages, especially because they're coming from Savings Institute of South Africa, rather. Then what kind of aggressive measures do you have for Abantu to show them how serious it is to spend wisely?
I think it's important that, as Uba Tami said, the message is spread that we have a problem. South African Reserve Bank quarterly bulletins numbers say we're spending 77.8% of disposable income servicing debt, which means 3/4 of the average South African salary, average, is servicing debt. For many people who we know, family members and friends, it's more than 3/4. And I think information is number one key to get people to actually start knowing that there's a problem around debt. And how we also communicate is about how do we educate people that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Because a lot of people who are in debt remain in debt because they don't see another way out. They see debt as the only way. You know, but as Ubaba was saying, there's things which help people get out of debt. There's a stokvel, which is a way of saving where through the year, yes, Christmas you can spend like there's no tomorrow because you've saved the whole year. So we need to start educating people with that message that let's spend wisely. I will never say to anybody, don't enjoy your festive season, but let's spend wisely. Do you really have to buy that car so that when you go to the Eastern Cape or KwaZulu-Natal, people can say, no, you've got a new car? Is that really necessary? And the other bits of information we need to know is that the economy is changing. We're going into a period which is a slowdown, which means it's going to affect everyone. The laws are also changing. You've got the National Consumer Amendment Act, which is the NCAA, which is coming into force. And what that will do is it will reduce the eligibility for most people for debt. They said, they looked at some of the numbers as to people who've been granted loans through 2015. If the new rules are applied, 62% of those loans which were approved this year would not be approved in 2016. So we need to start living knowing that there is no fallback situation on AMA loan because the law has also changed. So the message really is let's spend wisely. Let's think about next year. I'd rather families gather this year and start planning and saying, look, let's form AMA stokvel for next year. Let's find ways of creating wealth as opposed to simply being consumers who use whatever we have.
But tell me, if then we preach this gospel every year we tell people, spend wisely. Well, not just spend wisely, but, you know, try to save during the year, if, you know, if that's the case. Why then are people not taking these into account? What's the problem?
Well, the first problem, I think we speak about spending wisely towards December. I think that's the first problem. If we want to inculcate a culture of savings, spending wisely, budgeting, planning, this has to be a consistent message over 12 months. But if we talk only 2 weeks before the festive season, and then after January, we talk about other things, these problems will continue to occur. So the most important thing is that finally, with consumer education, financial planning, access to information must be consistent throughout the year, 12 months, in all languages. I mean, I'm on Ikwekwezi FM almost on a daily basis. And it's amazing to the listeners of that radio station. Most majority, but they don't have access to all the information that we need as consumers.
All right. Well, let's quickly go there for a break. We'll be back. You're still watching Yilungelo Lakho right here on SABC 1. Well, today we're giving you tips on how you can save, or rather not really save, but save, spend what you have wisely. Because post-festive season will come, you'll still have responsibilities and school fees. Abantwana. We're giving you all those tips today on the show. Stay with us. We'll be back after this. Well, welcome back. You're still watching Yilungelo Lakho right here on SABC 1. By the way, because I know that many of you are out there celebrating and you're planning to go and spend as much as you can. Today, we're giving you the tips. So that we're giving you tips on how you can spend what you have wisely without going over the edge, and think about your responsibilities in January. Well, now, gentlemen, another question is that an issue that basically a lot of South Africans are faced with isn't those yonyuka. Price of petrol is going up, your rent is going, school fees is going up, everything is going up, but it seems like the income that consumers have is not equivalent to that increase. So that's why you find a lot of people that perhaps, they try to squeeze in, they go kuma loans, amashonisa, and loan sharks. How do you think we can remedy that situation, Gerald?
I think that's the reality. I think when people look at Abantu Mnyama, we kind of assume that these people don't know.
Yeah.
Many people have started budgeting.
Yeah.
And many people have learned the hard way. And the hard way is really, I got into debt. I was living beyond my means.
Yeah.
But now I'm trying to fix things. However, I don't earn enough to pay my obligations. So how do I get out of that situation?
Exactly.
And really, that's where a lot of people are currently sitting.
Yeah.
I think we've gone beyond the stage where people don't know they're in debt.
Yeah.
They see the letters.
Yeah.
They see the phone calls.
And they don't know.
No, some people even save the number on the cell phone as, do not call me. Do not answer. When it rings, do not answer.
Don't answer.
They change cell phone numbers. People are really struggling to cope.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, that's where we are right now. And I think as Ubaba Tami was talking, it's around now the education to say, okay, now that you may have got yourself into debt, how do you get out?
How do you get out?
How do you get out?
Correct.
But Tami.
I mean, it's about financial discipline, really. Because as there are quite a number of people who don't earn much.
Yeah.
But they live within their means.
Yeah.
They manage everything properly. They budget, they plan, they do everything correctly. Right? So if all of us can learn that skill, I'm definitely sure things could be better.
And as Ubabatam is saying, one of the things we need to remember as South Africans that wealth is measured in time.
Yeah.
So if you want to take it right down to the Bible, it talks about generations, children's children. And how wealthy are you is what you should be asking yourself. Because if you look at your salary and you say, I stop earning money today, how long can I survive? That's how wealthy you are. And what you tend to find is these so-called black diamonds, middle class, are as wealthy as 2 months. Whereas sometimes they have a domestic worker in their house who sends money every month, who if she stops working for her boss in the suburbs, she can survive a year, 2 years, because she's living within her means. And we need to start looking at our lives and saying, are we wealthy? Because if 2 months from now I'm on the street, that flesh car is gone, the bond is going, I am not wealthy. I'm not even living. So what we need to do right now is at this time of the festive period is to sit down as families and discuss some of these things. Because some of the times it means we have to make those hard decisions. Sometimes it's about saying, I'm giving up my townhouse. I'm giving up that house, a suburb, and I'm going Ekasi for a year, 2 years, 3 years. I need to clear this debt. And I need to start looking at myself to get up. Sometimes we can no longer live trying to impress people. We need to fix ourselves. And some of those hard decisions are as difficult as saying, family, let's come together. Mina, I'm going back Ekasi. The next 2 years, I'm clearing, getting out of debt, and then I'm going to start looking at my life more seriously.
It's also about having a second job.
A second job,
If it's possible you work Monday to Friday, then Saturday, Sunday, you could have an extra job and an extra income to afford even better.
But do you think people are that active? Like they're that willing to sacrifice their goods, as you've said, to leave Suge Sababin and go Ekasi, to sacrifice that posh car?
Well,
do you think that people are really at that point?
Some people have done it. I know a gentleman in Limpopo who was a DDG. He wanted to come to Gauteng and he applied for a director's post in Gauteng. He left that DDG post and came to Gauteng because he wanted to be here. He sacrificed and is even living a much better life now. So a lot of people do sacrifice, but it's about knowledge, it's about access to information, it's about families and individuals having access to financial planners.
All right.
So that people can be assisted to plan better.
Okay, now let's delve into the core of our discussion, which is basically the festive season. People are definitely going to go out and spend, and that's exactly what we're saying. We're not saying to you at home that don't go and spend, but we're saying spend wisely. Now, when it comes to shopping, how different can I, do my shopping as opposed to the previous years where you're going to shop for izibhadla zabantwana, you're going to shop for food, and groceries are over the top. You know, you want to cook 3 meals, you're going to host family. You know, it's all that responsibility that is financially attached. It's got financial attachments to it. So how do I ensure that I free myself, even in January, I'm still sound at mind, and I'll be able to still be intact with my responsibilities?
If you really feel you want to fill up that trolley, or you've never had that experience of 2 or 3 trolleys and you want to push them, what you should do, 1 trolley is for January, put it in the cupboard.
Yes.
Okay? If you really want to be Mr. Cashbacks, a Pep, or wherever you are shopping, buy uniforms, put them aside, then buy those clothes for Christmas. Then when your money is finished, you know that at least January I bought some food, at least January I bought some groceries. So we're saying, think ahead, because what most people don't realize is that salary for December, most people have already eaten it right now. But December is the longest month because you're actually getting a salary for 45 days. And you have to survive 45 days. And most people simply don't have that skill. So what we're saying is, if you really want to benefit from buying in bulk, buy ahead, buy into January.
Also buy for January.
And uniform. Do it now. It's school fees. Don't wait until January. Pay it now. At least send the money now and put it aside, because that's what's killing our people, is that we know that January is coming, yet we think we're going to make a plan. But unfortunately, things are getting harder. The banks aren't giving money as easily as they used to before. And now when you want to move jobs, they do a credit check. So you can't even get that better job where you increase your salary. And most of us, as Rubab Tami is saying, we do have other skills. So if you write. If you can do ingwele or do hair or nails, whatever you want to do, try it and start teaching yourself, even if it means you're saving 20 rand by learning to cut your own hair. That's the first step. But the first thing is, let's first accept our reality, and that comes with education, that comes with budgeting and knowing your current position.
But I mean, it seems like ignorance also is our biggest enemy.
Yeah, it could be. But let me just add something to what you was saying. I mean, I believe with a shopping skill, you must have a shopping skill that you use.
What's a shopping skill?
When you go shopping, you know how to shop.
Okay.
1, you have a budget. 2, when you go buying a grocery, you must have a list of what you want to buy. Okay. If you go to the shops, you'll notice right? They always have a trolley and on a list. We are Tata Atik, Atik. No-name brands. Why do you buy beans? It's got 15 rands when you can get a no-name brand for 6 rands? You know? Bread. So you've got to have that skill.
Instead, we'll take a songa every day, can, you know, go over, buy flour.
Exactly.
Okay.
And come December, you then say, okay, this is a festive season. I did get my bonus. Let me then add 20% to what I normally spend every month. And then, you know, you've got your shopping list, you know what you want to buy. 2, don't go with kids when you shop.
Okay. Shiya bantwana
ekhaya. Or muhamba nabe shopping center kunama game areas where bashiya khona ku-2 and go to the shopping.
Because they are most likely to take you off your plan.
Exactly.
All right, well, you're still watching Yilungelo Lakho right here in SABC 1 in Mzansi for sure. Today, we're not coming to you live, so you won't be able to call us right in the show. But guess what? You can go to our social media page and go and drop us your comments. What do you think about savings? I mean, you're going to go out and probably you are planning, it's a week or in advance before Christmas. You are planning your Christmas shopping. What are you learning from our show today? And also, what other tips can you give to other consumers? Please make sure that you give us all those details and all that information. Go to our Facebook page and drop all those commentary. While we're coming back after this, stay with us. Wasinamkalo kwakho nasilabula mgama ke nenqulu kwethu apha e-studio kuba wena ke mhlawumbi usana ukuvula i-TV yakho namhlanje, don't you dare change that channel, because we're giving you all the tips you need to get about your saving this December, and specifically how to save your money. Ukwenza sure ukuba le mali onayo, le bonus uyifumeneyo, you can still spend it also in January. Now, Putami, before the break, you were telling us about abantwana, into yokubana ungashiya abantwana and go do your groceries, you know, your shopping plan, which is interesting. But some people might think into yokubana loo nto irresponsible of children, you know, to leave your children abandonishe and go and have a, you know, uhamba wena nge-ice cream apha emall, abantwana bashiye phaa emidlalweni.
No, but you plan it. Okay. I'm not trying to say sonke isikhathi when you go shopping, you don't involve your kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes you take them. But I mean, if you go for major shopping, you've got to consider a number of things. Your time, how old are these kids, and so on. But the most important thing, ukuthi uyahlala nabantwana bakho ekhaya and have a discussion around money issues. Uthatha abantwana ubayisa supermarket, when you don't sit with them and explain how these things happen, becomes irresponsible. So you need to be able to engage abantwana ekhaya, and then ubaplanele ukuthi if I go shopping this time, it will be appropriate for them. There will be a good learning experience for them. Or maybe this time I shouldn't go with them. For instance, if you want to go to a bottle store and buy some whiskeys and wine and all those things, I won't take my kids there. If I want to buy them presents, my budget is not big enough, then I can't take them because I demand expensive things which I can't afford, and then I have to share. So you've got to manage it very carefully.
Gerald, what's your shopping plan?
Okay, my take on the children as well is really, it's not about this Christmas. It's not about 2015 Christmas. You must realize that while a child is growing up, they're watching you. So everything you do is going to be the basis of how they behave financially in the future. And typically, if you walk around without a list and shop, they're going to be irresponsible spenders. They're going to be impulsive. They just believe that you take and grab. Okay. Once your child sees you, Mama no Baba always have a list, that's already planting the seeds of budgeting and financial planning in the future. Also, what you need to do is to start introducing children to the value of money, so that when you are in that supermarket, let's say they're now old enough to understand money, basic arithmetic, you go, you withdraw. One of the most important things is withdraw cash outside the supermarket, 3,000 or whatever you are going to spend. Go inside, go through the list, so that when the child reaches the till, they can see you paying and imali finishes. Most children
so that
think,
they know, but
yes, they think we've got magic cards which we swipe, and whenever it swipes, it buys. So therefore, when you go to a shop and you say no to a child, they cannot relate to why you're saying no. Similarly, if you are someone who smokes or someone who buys airtime, don't just buy it. You must show your child there's a plan to this airtime buying. But the problem is most people don't even know how much they spend on airtime, so they can't even tell their child, I've run out of airtime or I've reached a limit. Let's start limiting ourselves. The problem right now is that we have a limitless society, therefore we keep demanding more, and therefore we are in the situation we are in right now, that we can't control our spending because we have not a limit. If you're given a credit limit by your bank, the bank is actually insulting you. They're telling you this is how much you're worth, this is how much you can spend. You can't afford to spend more than this. But most of us, when you get that credit limit, we're challenged. It's a credit target. I must show this bank, I can spend this limit.
I can spend even more.
No, be insulted because it's showing you how much you're really worth. If you're being told you're worth by a bank 50,000 rand, be very afraid, because it means that you're not living. You're not living your life the way you ought to live, or living to your full potential. Let's start exploring the possibilities. We were not created to work for employers or organizations. We were created to be able to create wealth. We've all got a skill. We've all got something you can do better than the person next to you, which can give you extra money. But the most important thing is take stock of where you are. If you are in debt, start making those hard decisions to get out. But this festive period, let's enjoy ourselves, but let's sometimes have some of these debates with our families where we say, look, how do we get out? How can we help each other? And some of the ways of helping each other is what you call mutual spending. That's why the mutual societies did so well when they were formed. They were stokvels. And that's the best way to start getting out of debt, is to start a round or a way in which this month I get a super income, which allows me to get out of debt and do something different with my money. But let's start limiting ourselves.
Just also talking about living within your means, Butabi, you know, other people, especially now because of amount of money, e-bonuses, other people have got 2 incomes. So basically, e-bonus, because you get paid twice in 1 month. How important would you say it is, but that bonus, spend you just live within that particular income as well, also in December?
No, but that depends. It comes back to what we're saying, because it's all about discipline. I mean, I just met a friend yesterday who I got my bonus. I need to buy a new car.
Also shy,
I need to buy a new, and as I won't get a bonus on the deposit. And there is no way I'm convinced her otherwise, because she's made up her mind, I want a car. Why? Because all her friends, all her peers are driving good cars. And that's another thing that we need to understand. With peer pressure, it's not only bantwana bancane, it's also others. If my friends are driving VW Polos, I must also get one. So peer pressure plays a big role on adults. That's why I was saying earlier, which abantwana, we need to talk to them as parents. Because they understand from an early age, so that when they cooler, they become responsible consumers. If we don't teach them until they're 25, until they're 30, who are inviting trouble.
Also with the hyper festive season, you know what's interesting is the fact that we behave throughout the year. We as you're living with igrocery yakho imalenga, you know, your rent is this much. But when it comes to December, it's just 3 days. It's basically your Christmas, it's your Boxing Day if you celebrate it, and New Year's Eve. So it's those 3 events. But the way we spend, it's as if it's the end of the world.
It's simply because of peer pressure. People are looking at us. You know, you've worked hard the whole year and you've come here and
you must have something to
you're
show.
in the same car as last year. Job is tough. You know, you're still driving in number plate without the new style. We're not life is. People are driven by what other people are doing. And what you must tend to realize is, let's look at people who've succeeded in sometimes creating wealth. Yes, Avelunga had apartheid to help them. They were helped. But let's look at how they still behave now. They still drive cars which are 10, 15 years old. And they don't mind. They're not in the car park looking as though they are worried. Yet you look at us as black people, go into any car park, even the lowest paid jobs, there's cars which you can't understand why they are there. You see BMWs in front of Nkuk. You know, so we need to start accepting ourselves that these white people had the benefit of generations, because wealth is generational. So let's give ourselves time to accumulate this wealth. Let's drive those cars for longer than we thought we would. But it allows us to put our children through school. It allows us to put our children through university. We've already had protests in the last past month saying fees must fall. If we do not start managing how we spend, next year we'll all be singing prices must fall and we'll be toy.
But you see, another problem is our role models.
Our role models.
Our role models.
Who is your role model?
Government, business leaders, sports heroes. Papilanjan. What do they drive? And we told Mundo wants to do exactly what that role model is doing. So we need our role models now, but Bapile Impilo is exemplary to ordinary people. If a prime minister of Sweden, for instance, drives a Toyota Corolla, or sometimes rides in a bike to go to work, why do we use such expensive cars? Right? Because then ordinary person will say, if Bonabe Hambangale 4x4, so there are a number of things that we need to do.
Get your priorities right.
And in media also, you guys, your role is very important here, because the education here, a lot of it is from the media.
And I think with the media, I'll add there that, you know, as much as the media is empowering, it's destroying our country. Because most of the soapies, everything we are watching is about a lifestyle which is aspirational. Let's find entertainment means which talk about reality. Because let's give each other the tools to get out of it. Because at the end of the day, we watch what's around us. And because most of us didn't have parents who succeeded and went all the way to varsity and achieved all their dreams, I look at the next best person who I can latch onto. And if you see yourself as a role model, even yourself as a TV presenter, watch how you behave in public, what you are driving, because someone out there is saying, I want to be like you.
I want to spend like you.
Yeah.
Wow, who's your role model? That's the question. We're saving. Well, it's very interesting. I'm learning quite a lot. And we are funda lubansi. Well, we're coming back after this break. Stay with us. Okay. Well, welcome back. Our program today is not live, so it's pre-recorded. We've specially packaged it for you so that you benefit around this time. Well, we'll continue with our discussion right here in studio. You're still telling us about who to look up to, Klaus Saver. Also now when it comes to issues of families, especially Tina Bandabamnyam, we've got big families. You've got your even though you're married, you might be married, Gerald, you still have your family at home that will either come and want to spend time with you. We have Abandwana who expect gifts around this time. Do you think that perhaps it's time we dismiss the Santa Claus culture or belief within Ngondo Zethu?
I think what we have is, we've been discussing this year this thing called black tax. Black tax is really where you as an individual, you're the one who's gotten out of ekasi. You've got the good job, but you're supporting yourself and you're trying to keep up with Avelungu in the office. So you also want to dress the right suit, because if you don't dress right, you might not get that promotion.
That's true.
And also you're maintaining extended family ekas. So that's our fundamental problem, in that us as black people, especially the moment you're starting to earn decent money, you're not supporting one family. It's not mom, dad, and your dog. No, like, the cars which have the stick people. If us black people had to put stick people on our cars, we wouldn't be able to see out of the car.
That's
because
true.
we have so many responsibilities. So how do we live with these black tax or family extended responsibilities whilst in modern society? In the old times, we stayed in a village and everything and all resources were shared in the village. That's how we survived. And if you wanted to get married, you would borrow cows from your neighbor, and we all worked as a unit. Now we're trying to become something we are not.
Something we're not.
We're creating nuclear families, yet we are an extended family system, and hence we're having breakdowns, especially around finances. Because at the end of the day, your uncle who helped to put you through school has every right to call on you and say, "Mfana wami, I need some money."
Yeah, I need food around this time, Bhutan. Sithanda izinkomo, sithengela abantwana izimpahla zeChristmas, sipaint izinto and all those things. Are those things necessary?
But you see, going back to what you were saying, if we pair these other racial groups, they get together, it's a festive season, it's a wedding, it's a funeral or whatever, people share. This family will come, now the salad.
Yeah.
That other family will was on a samosa. This other family was on a fruit vegetable.
Yeah.
Nobody comes there empty-handed.
Empty-handed.
People believe in sharing.
Yeah.
But we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
If I go to your event, umshado wako or what, I come empty-handed, I expect
true.
you to feed me,
Yeah.
which is wrong. So we need to tell people, educate them, look, we need to share.
To share. Just talking about events, especially around this time. Gunemi chat, gunemi gidi,
Exactly.
December is usually busy.
Yeah,
And with that comes not just pressure to shop for food, but also to go and shop, for a gift. You need to buy so-and-so a gift.
Correct.
You need to buy a new outfit as well. All those little things. How important would you say it is to just find a new tactic of dealing with your shopping, specifically around those issues?
Look, he was talking about soapies. I believe in aid to entertainment soapies because those things can change a society in a big way.
Yeah.
So if we can have aid to entertainment approach with soapies where people say, no, you are funeral, as expect umuntu oshonele boy enothenga everything.
Yeah,
But
bring
sifika siphethe indoda shota ngayo siphathele and everything. Then things can change a little bit.
Yeah.
But right now we expect to be fed all the time when we get invited, which is hopelessly wrong.
And then over the festive season, like now, let's not laugh at each other. Sometimes you go and you see someone who obviously had a difficult year, things have not worked out for them. Tina, we gossip and we laugh and we make. No, let's go back to our roots.
All communities do that.
But it's time to
It's time to start coming back to reality and saying, look, let's start building this community. Let's start building this nation. Ama jazz festival, ama concerts, yes, they are every week from now on until January. But let's start building each other. If we can, I say, if you look at the wealthiest philanthropists in the world, they give. Especially when it's time to give. In the West, they've got Thanksgiving, they've got all sorts of holidays which are designed for giving.
For giving.
Okay, so what have you done this festive season? If we're talking spending right now, have you found a family? Have you found someone who you can even go and give 10 kgs of rice and say, Merry Christmas?
Yeah.
Tina, we're not doing that.
But
We want to
Gerard,
go.
remember when we were growing up
Yeah.
in the townships, in the rural areas?
Yes.
Mama said Christmas. You could go to any family and they will feed you.
Yeah. So you don't have to spend uyenze ngokwakho la
And
Christmas
if
kwakho.
ufika lapho kuthiwa
True,
no, there is no sugar, uphindele ekhaya uthi ma ekwamkhizi mali
Sugar.
kuyahlusheka. Athi ma no, please
Taking
thathani
back-
ushukela
Taking us
nomsakho.
back to the basics.
So we can still do those things. That's why I was still going back to what you were saying about our soapies. If we can have that approach, aid to entertainment in our soapies, there's much that can change for the better in the
And the
country.
biggest concern is the future. It's the children.
It's the future.
It's the children.
It's the future.
What are we doing in teaching our current future generation? Because we are creating, like little birds whose mouths are open.
Yeah.
And
Just
that's
feed,
all-
feed, feed,
They
feed.
expect it to fall from somewhere.
Yeah.
And that generation is going to give us problems because if we do not start changing our behavior, we've got a much bigger catastrophe coming because these children are not being empowered to think, they're not being empowered to create wealth, they're not being empowered to realize that although we swipe the magic card, there's actually money at the back end which shows how much I earned this month. So sometimes you need to start calling your children around the table and start showing them that it's not all magic.
It's another interesting question. We send our kids to private schools.
Private schools.
Whose values are they learning in those schools?
Yeah. But it's the belief that, you know, especially because when it comes to Yilungelo January, you know, we're saying that people should save now. So we will save for school fees as well. But there's a belief that the more expensive the school is, the better the quality of education.
Which is not true.
Well, that's the belief that society has. So I think if then, you know, we try to decode this culture that we've adopted in Dogbana, the more expensive, the more or better the quality, the better our lives will be, Gerald.
I think yes. I think we have challenges, but my main parting shots would simply be that 2016 is going to be a tough year. All the economic indicators indicate that it is going to be a tough year. We've already seen what's happened to the South African rand in 2015, and we know that there are challenges coming ahead. So let's use this opportunity of this festive season to put the brakes on a little bit and start looking more prudently at what the future holds. And us who are parents and role models and leaders in our communities, let's see how we are living to see, look, can we make changes which benefit everyone else around us? I mean, even the tenders are stopping. You know, that's how bad things are going to be. So we had become a culture of tenderpreneurs. Even the tenders are being questioned now. So what are we going to do, and can we live within our means?
Just talking about hard times ahead of us. Now let's go back to Sekhaya, you know, that parent who either didn't get a bonus or omnia or retrenched in October, you know, months back. How then can you what can you say to them? How can you equip them in Dogbana this festive season? They still have a good time, but then they definitely stick within their means. You know, gonna salary this December, Butem.
Well, there are many people who don't have salaries as we speak. There are many people who are not going to be paid in November, December, in January. It happens all the time. That is why I'm saying our message should not be just around the Christmas period. We must have a consistent message about budgeting, about planning, about sharing, about assisting each other. Those are the things we really need to preach on a daily basis. If we don't do that, things won't change. I mean, I've been a consumer activist now for more than 15 years. And every December, I'm here in the studio talking about the very same thing. Who's listening? I'm not sure. Right? But we need to continue doing it January right up to December.
Throughout, instill a culture of saving instead of spending, Gerald.
Definitely.
So when it comes to abantwana, not just abantwana, but you know, there are people who are first-time employees. We can't take the reality or the hype and the excitement, like you said, that go to a Mercedes-Benz. How then would you say it's important maybe to wait around this time, around this December? They talk about balloon payments, some people.
Well, they talk about balloon payments and all sorts of things, but I think with the youth, they need role models. And what I would say to any youth who's still starting out in life, you haven't got the burden of debt, you're still enjoying your money, you know, you don't have that many responsibilities, I would say to them, find yourself a financial mentor. Find yourself someone who is older than you, not necessarily earning a lot of money, but someone who is wise, someone who can impart values into your life, because that's the problem. When I started working, I didn't have a financial mentor. My financial mentor was the MD, and I wanted to be like him. So at the end of the day, I spent like him, but I didn't earn like him. Whereas if I had a father figure who sat me down and said, look, your first car doesn't have to be a BMW, it can be a second hand, because you're still learning to drive. You can have an accident. Vele, do you even need a car? Because there's a nice bus which takes you from your door to work. Why don't you use this opportunity to buy a house first? Because now as a financial planner, it's house before car. We weren't taught that.
Wow. Well, I get also to Yilungelo Lakho. You don't have to buy a car right now, because another trick is that you are told in Dogbana you're buying a car now in December, but they're going to pay. You're still going to start paying in June or July and whatnot. Don't you dare fall for that. Wait, save for it, keep a bonus, and then we take it plus already imoto yako. Well, Yilungelo Lakho will continue after this. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to our final segment right here in Yilungelo Lakho. I know that you can't wait to go out there, go mall and go start spending. Well, before you do that, just wait for us. Just give us a few minutes before we give you those tips. Now, there's a term sandwich.
Sandwich generation.
Sandwich
Essentially, it's the
generation,
same
yeah.
thing as black tax. I mean, many people call it different things. Some people call it Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Some people say Chivanu if you go in other countries. It's essentially the same concept where we are responsible for multiple households.
Okay.
So the sandwich generation, the whites call it that way because it's like a sandwich. There's bread on top, bread on the bottom. The top being the older people and the youth being the bottom of the bread, and you're stuck in the middle of the sandwich. But we can call it whatever we want, but it's essentially what we've discussed already, which is black tax.
All right. Now let's get into the tips. Let's equip the viewer who's watching us at home. You know, what are the first things you can say they should be cautious of around this time? First things to be cautious of with regards to their finances. They're looking at the timeline and they're like, yeah, what can you say to them?
Well, my advice is to, one, have a list of what you want to do. What I want to buy, do I want to go on holiday, right? And how much will it cost me?
Okay.
Two, how much money do I have? Make a budget. Three, how much do I want to save for January, February, for school fees, uniforms, and all those things? And then if you do those three things, you'll be able to manage better.
Other tips which you can also consider around now is because so many people are having a hard time, don't carry too much cash. So as much as you want to show people that thick wallet, rather use a 10 rand.
Yeah.
Don't try and do thick wallet 200 because after tonight you might have a problem because you can't find that wallet. So let's also be safe. I think we're also in a society which is losing its morals, and so we need to be safe with our money. So carry less money where we can. When we are using things like ATMs, etc., don't use an ATM which you don't know, where you've never been before. For example, you on your way home. Don't rather wait until you reach a safe space where you can use your ATM. Other good advice for now is, yes, buy in bulk, where you can negotiate, get that discount. As much as you are the consumer, the retailer wants to make money, so negotiate. We seem to have lost our negotiating skills. We just pay whatever
is there. Rents, negotiate for 20 or 25.
Do your best to get a better deal, whatever you're doing. And as Ubaba is saying, it's all essentially around planning. Even if you're looking at Christmas presents, do like Yilungelo. They have this secret Santa thing they do, where they say, look, every member of this family has just got 200 rand to spend, and you buy one present for one person. So I buy a present for you, you buy a present for Ubaba, Ubaba buys a present for me.
Instead of you buying for everybody.
So instead of me buying 400 rand worth of presents, I'm spending 200 I've saved. And that way I can get you a better present, and at the same token we're now starting to share the concept of spending and saving as a family. So even if you're an extended family, it works just as well. You just choose one person you're buying a present for and someone else buys you. As long as you set a limit, that also lowers the expectation where this one bought a remote control car and this one didn't buy this. At least you now also have the similar values. Also when you're shopping, you pass those shops which are the pawn shops or the ones where they sell value things in there. Go look in there. Sometimes you get new things which are good prices as opposed to going to the department store and buying the expensive gifts. But the main thing is let's try and plan, but enjoy our festive season.
Another thing, Gerald, is that, you know, sometimes throughout the year, maybe you had a birthday, mine was 2 months ago in October, you get presents, sometimes you think, I don't know when I'm going to use this, so you keep it. So when it comes this time around Christmas, you can go back and check your closet. What is it that I can give to so-and-so? You know, it doesn't have to be brand new, like you're saying. Would you agree, Putami?
No, I fully agree. In fact, in other countries, what happens is that if you get a present and away phone, away handy, you can return it.
Return it to store. Just as long as the giver doesn't know.
Of course, you won't tell the person, or exchange it for something that is more important to you. It does happen.
It does happen.
But one thing I had a good experience a few years ago.
Yes.
And then so banikeza 1,000, that go and buy Christmas stuff for yourself.
Oh.
One kid came with a bag full of things. We are at discount shops. A boy came with only 2 items because he wanted very expensive things. So we are in different ways. But as I was saying, if the messaging way to be consistent,
You
we
can
can
have more
achieve
with
something.
less. You can have more with less. Another thing, it's very difficult to resist the temptation.
Yeah.
The minute you walk into a shopping mall around this time, there are sale, discount, 50% discount, and the SMSs that keep on coming. I mean, banks, financial institutions as well, they are endlessly enticing you to come over
They're
and to
the
get
worst
the loan.
culprits anyway, those ones.
Yeah, so how do you resist that temptation, Gerald?
I think it's discipline. Say no. We need to put no back into our vocabulary and into our decision-making trees. Let's start being able to say no. No to our children. No to our family as well, because that's one of the problems that with sandwich generation and black desk, when Umkulu asks for something, you can't say no because I owe him. No. If you can't afford it, you explain to them, look, Baba, I can't do it this month. Maybe in 2-3 months' time, we'll make a plan.
You see, sometimes it happens. You're starting a new job.
Yeah.
You come from a very poor family. All of a sudden, you're working for this big company, and then financial companies come to you with credit cards and all those things. All of a sudden, you see yourself with you've got the access to money, and there are needs back home that you need to meet, and they're quite bad.
Yeah.
So now the question is, you can't say no, because we are really under...
You're already under pressure. Yeah.
So the question is, how then do you manage the whole thing? How do you plan it? Do you get a financial planner to assist you so that even if you go for credit, you go for credit in a responsible way, credit that you can afford? Because a credit is not always a bad thing. It's not. Sometimes all of us need credit to survive. But it's a question of how do you access that credit? How do you manage it? Is it affordable for you? And so on.
Yeah, well, gentlemen, before we end the show, on a lighter note, how will you be spending your Christmas
I think I'll be spending my Christmas with family, just keeping it simple. We're not going anywhere far. We'll do that early next year where it's cheap.
Yeah.
I'm going to the World Congress of Consumers International in Brazil.
You are going to be in a Congress in December.
I'm going to come back and even better consumer activists next year.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. The interview was great, and I'm sure that the viewer at home also learned something. Well, we've come to an end of our program today. Thank you so much to you as well for joining us and for being patient with us. We're giving you this information because we want to make sure that you are the better steward of your finances as well. From me, and the rest of the team, it's goodbye and God bless you.
Yilungelo Lakho